before I speak, I wanted to say one thing. Too often, men hear about Me Too. We hear from women the ways that we've harmed them, and we say, what the hell am I supposed to do about that? We say, forget about it. We deny it, and we use any privilege that we have to run away. I want men to feel like they don't have to give up on being better when they find out that something is wrong, that there's something we can do. I want people to believe that something is possible, because if we're hopeless, everyone loses. When I was hopeless, I was useless to everyone. And I made things worse. And that's what happens. Men feel useless and hopeless, and they double down on the problem. And everyone pays the price, especially women, transgender people. I've hurt women in my life. And I've done it in ways that are connected to one of the biggest problems that our species is facing right now. And I've spent the last 2 years of my life, and will spend the rest of it, asking this question. What can I do to live a life of integrity and service, even having made these mistakes? So this is my story, and I share it in hopes that it will reduce harm by evoking the evolution of manhood. One summer, I was visiting my grandma in Sudan with my cousins, and we were playing dress up. And I was dressed up as Mazina, and I had a dress, and my hair was long, and I loved it. And then my aunt found us, and she's like, oh, you want to be a woman, huh? Well, then why don't we give you some boobs? And she grabs me by the nipples and twists them as hard as she can so they'll swell up. Take that damn clothes off and be a man. And that's the first time I can remember someone telling me to be a man. And I still feel that shit. And I joined a new middle school, and a week after, a guy named Adam and all of his friends jumped me, and they're like, you either have to kiss his shoe or we're all going to beat you up. And I'm like weighing out my options. Be a man and get beat up by these 12 guys, or kiss a shoe. It seemed like the logical decision. Like, it's just a shoe. What's the big deal, right? Just give me the damn shoe. And I look over at my friends, they're like, bro, you should have been a man and fought. You're never going to live this down. So I start playing the game. I start working out, getting in fights, vying for popularity, doing whatever I can to be a man. And it starts working. You know, I can finally show my face again because I have some control over my reputation. And a year later, I get a phone call. I was 15. Mazin, your mom just died this morning. I had no idea what to do. People told me to be a man. So I did what I thought that meant. And I numbed myself to all my emotions. Didn't cry for 3 years. Me and my sister moved back to the San Francisco Bay Area to live with my cousins. And I tried to be the cool guy. Not too many feelings, make some friends, become popular. So I felt like I had something. I go to college and I continue the be a man act. You know, be cool, make friends. And it started working. People invite me to parties. Some women wanted to date me. But whenever the emotions got too real, I always had to end it. Until I fell in love. Like, I was in love. Like, I was feeling love. And we would write each other letters and love poems, and we would cook each other meals. And I just felt like she deserved that perfect man. And I tried to give her my all. I tried to respect her and support her in any ways that I could. But when I really let her in, I became so possessive and jealous. And I read feminist theory, and I guess it was still just theory, because once I became insecure like that, I just tried to revert to be a man and take control. And I became emotionally manipulative. And she said we'd be better off just as friends. And what I should have done then is what I should have done when my mom died. Like, grieve this loss and reflect on what had happened. So I just reverted back to the default. Be a man. Oh, it's no big deal. Hurting? No. Depressed? Who's depressed? Oh, insecure? No, I'm very secure. Thank you. I'm good. Don't worry, bro. I'm strong. I meditate. Newly single, I would eagerly report to all my friends about all of my new relationships so everyone would know just how much of a man I was. I mean, that's the dream, right? Nothing hides your male insecurities like the approval of women. And the thing is, this entire time, I thought I was a really woke guy. I mean, the way the world is set up is that I could just keep staying numb and keep dominating and being a man with confidence, and no one would question me on any of this. And when they did, if I didn't listen, nothing would really happen. And when I would listen, maybe people wouldn't want to talk about it anymore. And then, people would say accountable. I'm like, what am I being accountable to? I don't know what does accountability mean? I'm just stuck in that cycle. And then the world erupts around me with the Me Too movement. And that was courage and vulnerability like I could never even have imagined. Revealing this reality that so many of us men didn't want to acknowledge, and it was way deeper than I had thought. And generally, I supported this movement. I supported these survivors and their stories, in theory. But behind the surface, I was terrified. Terrified that I was that guy too. That I've hurt people the way that so many of my friends have been hurt. That it was me who used other people as a way to deal with my emotional problems. It was me who tried to use people to prove how much of a man I was. And I had gotten wake-up calls before. But this time, it felt like half the world was on the other side of the line. And I had convinced myself that I was some kind of an exception, one of the good guys. I didn't catcall women on the street. I don't engage in locker room talk. I would never use physical violence to get what I wanted. Compared to those guys, those bad men, I'm not that bad. It's not about good men and bad men. It's about a culture of be a man, take control, do whatever it takes to get what you want because your desires are more important than anyone else's. And it was me who participated in that culture. It was me who stood by and watched my friends do the same and worse and did or said nothing. And I had realized that at the heart of all of this was men trying to live up to some expectations of manhood, trying to live up to some vision of be a man. And it needed to change from the root. And if I was going to do anything about it, I had to learn. And I learned that at least 1 in 6 women I know has been sexually assaulted. Mostly at the hands of men, and 80% of the time, it would be by someone they knew personally. Not some stranger in a dark alley, but a friend, a boyfriend, a family member, a leader, or a good guy like you or me. Listening to be a man, take control, get the sex that you need to prove that you're a man. But be a man doesn't just stop there. All the murders in the world, and 96% of them are committed by men. Be a man. Assert your power at any cost. But what is it costing us trying to live up to these standards of manhood? Because of the people murdered, 79% of them are men. Of the 3 million people incarcerated in the United States, 91% of them are men. We have a lower life expectancy. We're less likely to go to the doctor when we're sick and twice as likely to commit suicide. Simply being a man is the determining factor on all these forms of violence against others and ourselves. There were days where I was so resentful of men and manhood and myself, I wished I could just give up on being a man altogether. And sometimes it's when you're really humbled in those moments that you can actually see some guidance from places you wouldn't have expected. Like my dear friend who was transitioning their gender at that time. The gender the doctor assigned them at birth didn't match who they were, and I watched them with so much courage trying to explain their changed name and their pronouns to our friends, and I couldn't even imagine what they were going through. So much scoffs and eyes rolling and even hate. But it also was evident that they had become so much less interested in what people were telling them they were supposed to be, and so much more interested in who they actually were. And I couldn't even begin to understand their struggle, but I couldn't help but imagine, what is what my friend's experiencing make possible for everyone? What does this make possible for me? And when I see my friend and how fabulous they are, I think anything is possible. Human beings have such an amazing capacity to unlearn what we're taught and discover who we actually are. Now, before I talk about how I've sought to redesign my manhood, I should probably mention that I already did that once. As a kid growing up, I just did it unconsciously. I was like, all right, gotta be a man. 50 Cent, Lil Wayne, Goku, Power Rangers, Backstreet Boys, Dad. Just blindly grabbing at any role models I could find. Heroes, villains, celebrities, parents, siblings. I took who I actually was and tried to filter it through who I thought I had to be. And there was my vision for manhood. That's being a man. But now, I am committed to redesigning my manhood so that it's in alignment with my values and who I actually am, in a way that benefits everyone. And unfortunately, in doing that, I can think of all these visions, but it's not like downloading a new software update on your phone and pow, manhood redesigned. No, it's ongoing, it's lifelong process, and it's required me to actually become vulnerable enough to listen to feedback and to listen to myself. And like any design, it begins with a vision. So in my vision for manhood, my new vision for manhood, I'm guided by my values of openness, creativity, compassion, integrity, and service. And I'm actively reflecting on my thoughts and my behaviors so I can grow and be my best self. And I'm seeking meaningful connections with other people and with me. And being a man, having this new vision for manhood, it's giving me something to actually try to be. Because when I had a list of like, don't be all these things, I just was paralyzed. But having this vision, it lets me, even when I fall on my face, which I often do, to feel like I'm at least falling in the right direction. And this vision has led me to live and be things that being a man had previously told me not to do. Now, being a man to me means seeing a therapist regularly and joining a men's circle and learning how to feel and manage my emotions. Be a man means cooking for myself and nurturing myself. Be a man means cuddling with my grandma and giving her kisses, even if other men are watching. Be a man means wearing the clothes that express how I feel. Be a man means transforming my relationship with other men. Me and my best friend became accountability buddies. He knows my vision for manhood and I know his. And every week we check in. Mazin, what's one way that you're proud of how you showed up this week? All right, well, what's one place, and be real with me, what's one place where you feel like you could have acted more in alignment with your values? All right, well, what's one thing you're willing to do to demonstrate your values in action? What are you willing to do, and by when are you going to do it? And when one of us sees the other one acting out of alignment, we can lovingly remind each other, Mazin, I know being open and acting from your integrity is in your vision for manhood. What could that look like in this situation? Oh. And being a man means being vulnerable with other men now. And changing my relationship with men has meant that I can get my human needs of intimacy and emotional connection met from way more people, twice as many people. And I don't have to just rely on the women in my life for that. Being a man means seeing that I have a lot of privilege, ways that I'm prioritized just because of my gender, and I can use that, I have to use that to support the women, transgender, and gender non-binary people in my life, my friends, people, and recognizing that transphobia, homophobia, sexism, that's built in to what being a man was when I was growing up, into the very definition. And now it's time to redefine that. In redesigning manhood, I began with this vision, and I began by asking myself these questions. 1, what are the values that inspire you to be your best self? 2, am I willing to be vulnerable, to actually take off this armor of numbness and defensiveness, and to actually listen? Listen to the feedback that I'm getting, and listen to my inner voice of wisdom. 3, how will I hold myself accountable to my values so that I'm learning from my mistakes and acting from my integrity? 4, how can we set up a system of support for you so that you're staying in this? Therapists, counselors, professionals, men's circles, friends, people you trust who can show your blind spots and support you in this journey. And finally, what's the contribution that I want to make to the world embodying all of this? We all have so much to gain by getting clearer on who we actually are. on our values, and having a system of support around us. And for me, there's still so much work to be done. It'll be a lifelong journey. But redesigning my manhood to be in alignment with my values, with who I actually am, is letting me be my best self. To feel like I have hope, I have a path. And if I saw little Mazin in a dress, being bullied, in danger, or getting a call like, Mazin, your mom just died, and people are telling me to be a man about it, I'm going to say, nah, man. You don't listen to that noise. You listen to your heart, and you be yourself. Thank you.